This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. All right, we're trying to deal with some technical stuff here.
Somebody's mic's on.
Might be a speaker on.
All right. You know what? Shut off the mic. All right, we're going to try this again.
Jesus Christ, I love that. We're doing better for him.
No.
A lot of feedback.
Well, you're gonna have to look at everybody's computer. Like, see who got.
That's like voices at the bottom of the sea.
We think we're ready now? Can you guys hear me out there?
Yeah, there's no feedback, Mayor.
Yeah.
All right. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state that on July the 10th, 2020, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, the Upper Township website, and the Town Hall foyer. Mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being audio recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on the Upper Township website. We hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. We ask all to rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr,
Here.
Mr. Coggins,
Here.
Corson,
Present.
Mr. Young,
Mr. Young is not feeling well this evening, so he will not be attending the meeting.
and Mayor Palumbo.
Here.
4 members are present.
I'd like to apologize for the little technical difficulties. We're still trying to work through this as 5 months into the COVID-19. So hopefully at one point we'll get this down packed. So would someone like to make approval of the minutes from June 22nd, 2020, the regular and closed session minutes?
Motion approved. Second.
Are there any corrections, deletions, omissions that anyone's aware of? Hearing none. Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
and Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Favor?
All right, so now we'll do some reports. Scott, do you have anything for us this evening?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and committee members. Just a few things this evening. First, we'll start out with our report on the county and Upper Township with respect to COVID-19. The total positives as of today's date for COVID-19 infection in Cape May County are at 847, including, unfortunately, 73 deaths to date. We have 12 active cases currently in Upper Township and 3 fatalities in our community. I wanted to just bring to committee's attention a couple projects that Public Works has undertaken and completed. One being after several concerns and complaints about Route 50 and Tuckahoe Road near Lavardi's, the median area, which is, as most of you know, state-controlled area. Public Works did an excellent job in cleaning up the median from weeds and things of that sort. They did a great job. Another area, obviously, is Township Hall. I think they did an outstanding job replacing many of the trees and whatnot, planting new trees in front of our median area as you enter the property. And as I understand it from our superintendent of Public Works, there's going to be some planting of flowers and whatnot to give the area a little bit of color. So they did a great job there. 2 projects, both under communications and emergency management. First of all, radio communications. As you know, over the last few years, we've been working on a project with Verizon to upgrade our existing analog public safety communication system. That's Fire EMS. That's our connection to Ocean City Dispatch. And that's upgrading it from an analog system to a digital system. I'm pleased to report that next week, on the 21st, will be the cutover date, and everything will be finalized as far as the last equipment. Actually, the last equipment is going to be going in tomorrow from Verizon at our new tower location, which is the Seaville Water Tower. So the final cutover will be next week on the 21st. And then our other project is our a new backup generator system here at Township Hall. We have received that generator, and work will start tomorrow to remove our old generator and replace it with a new one, and we should have everything completed by end of business on Wednesday. I just wanted to also acknowledge, I have a letter here from the mayor of Estelle Manor, and it's a word of thanks to our EMS division. It's a word of sincere thank you from the city of Estelle Manor for your mutual aid and assistance for a recent house fire in their municipality, which occurred on June 2nd, 2020. So the mayor is thanking everybody that was involved in that to assist with that fire emergency. And that is all I have this evening, Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Barbara Young, do you have anything for us this evening?
Nothing to report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
Nothing at this time. We do have a number of items for closed session.
Okay. Paul, do you have anything for us this evening?
I do have a few items, thank you. First, kind of a backdrop to the Cape May County engineer sent me a list of some of the projects that are going on throughout the township. Obviously, we all know Corson Tavern Road is currently under construction. They have another project that we'll be discussing later on this evening. Then they have 5 or 6 resurfacing projects that are in the works and should be coming up. Stagecoach Road from County Road 631, which is Tuckahoe Road to the elementary school. They're going to be resurfacing and redesigning that. They have it done, so they're just waiting on funding. Church Road and Butter Road, they're looking at projects on both of those roads, and they're under design currently. New Bridge Road, which is behind like the Seaville Tavern, running from Route 50 over to Corson Tavern Road, that has been designed. They have funding for the project. However, there are several property owners that they need easements in order for them to construct the project. So they're waiting on easements from several property owners. And then in this year's maintenance paving, they're going to be continuing work on 610 Dennisville Petersburg Road, north of Route 50, some of the areas that were omitted from the paving project last year. And then they have some maintenance striping projects throughout the township. And the one future project that's coming up will be reconstruction and paving on Roosevelt Boulevard from the Parkway up to the Roosevelt Boulevard Bridge going into Ocean City. So the county engineer kind of wanted to let the township committee know the various capital projects that are going on right now in Upper Township. And that's all I had to report for this evening.
Thank you. Barbara Louie.
Good evening, everyone. I have nothing to report this evening.
All right. Let's see, Committeeman Coggins.
Nothing for me this evening, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Deputy Mayor Barr. Nothing for you? Okay. Committeeman Corson.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I just have a couple things. One, for those of you that don't know, the Parkway crossover bridge pathway, bike and walkway has been opened on July 8th. It is open to go from Beasley's Point all the way over to the Summers Point side. You can exit at a parking lot that they've developed put together on the Summers Point side. And if you're riding a bike, you can certainly go a lot further in through Summers Point and create your own route. It's 3 miles start to finish from the very beginning of the gate on the Beasley's Point side to the end of the gate on the Summers Point side and back. So for those of you that haven't tried it, I'd suggest you do. There's a great view from the top of the bridge. I've done it several times, and it's definitely a good workout exercise, especially this time of year. And then finally, I just want to remind everybody that the governor instilled the mandatory requirement for mask up for indoor and outdoor if you're not able to social distance outside. So just be aware of that. I think people have been pretty compliant that I've seen. I don't necessarily expect people to wear masks on the beach because there is a lot of open space and most people are doing pretty good with their social distancing and keeping the crowds down to a minimum. I believe it's at 25 right now, but I don't see anybody going anywhere near that. So I'd suggest that you just make it a point to always bring a mask with you in the event that you need it. So other than that, I wish everybody will continue to use the CDC requirements, wash your hands, do common sense things. Fortunately, New Jersey is doing pretty well. We are certainly doing well in Cape May County. We are certainly doing well in Upper Township, and let's just try to continue with that so that we don't have to take a step backwards like unfortunately some of the other states are doing right now. So that's all I have. Barbara, I would ask that you move forward with the resolutions, please.
Very good. Item number 1, resolution honoring all essential workers in Upper Township.
Move the resolution. Second. But just for comment, I'm sure on this resolution, there's somebody we missed or some profession. And I would just personally like to thank all the essential employees that went above and beyond during this pandemic.
Yeah, and this resolution doesn't include just healthcare workers. It includes a lot of the folks that have done a great job in our supermarkets and the small retail outlets that have provided the service for all of the residents throughout the initial 3 months of the COVID lockdown that we were experiencing, and then they continue to do so now. And they're really putting themselves at risk all the time on the front line, making sure that everyone is able to get what they need to feel comfortable in their homes, and also for those that unfortunately may or may not be experiencing some COVID symptoms or some sort of other illness that still need to be treated. So we have a first and a second. Would you call the roll?
Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
and Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 2, reappointing James R. Birchmeyer as municipal court judge for the Township of Upper.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Carried. 3, authorizing the award of a professional services contract with Tetra Tech Incorporated for the development of a repetitive loss area analysis.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And Paul, can I just ask that you give a little summary of what the repetitive loss analysis?
Sure.
Loss.
Repetitive loss analysis is a program that we're doing as part of our the community rating system, CRS, to help our residents with flood insurance. Repetitive loss property is a property that has had significant either number of insurance flood claims or potentially a single claim that had a high dollar amount. And I think it's either like 4 or 5 claims totaling up to I think 20 or 25,000. They keep kind of changing what that criteria is. And what this process will do is kind of analyze where our repetitive loss properties are and do some analysis about what kind of outreach and programming things that we could do to help make sure people that are in those repetitive loss areas to become more aware of flood insurance and flooding situations that exist around them. We already do some notices to our repetitive loss area properties, but this is just a further analysis to do more in-depth analysis, and it will garner us some additional CRS points as we try to improve our class rating from a class 5 community to hopefully maybe a class 4 for next year.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
Okay, so would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 4, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract with Ansero LLC for VoIP telecommunication services.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. All in favor. Item number 5, appointing members to the Upper Township Floodplain Management Public Information Group.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, authorizing the execution of an NJDEP TWA1 application statements of consent form regarding 26 East Seacliff Avenue in Strathmere at Block 857, Lot 8.01.
Move the resolution. Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Carried. Item number 7, canceling taxes on exempt property for Block 451, Lot 25.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. 8, canceling tax on exempt property at Block 566, Lot 54.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. 9, authorizing institution of in rem foreclosure proceedings for group number 155.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
and Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion's carried. 10, resolution of support authorizing the New Jersey Coastal Coalition to submit a sustainable Jersey grant application on behalf of Upper Township.
Before you act on this one, before you do that, I just wanted to point out that we did receive word today that we had asked for one amendment to the memorandum of understanding, that the webcam, if for some reason the township decides it's not working out, can cancel it at any time.
So that would address your concerns, Curtis. It's the cameras that we had talked about that we'll be looking at potential flood areas. We're gonna put one at the boat ramp and one at the lifeguard station. In the event that we find it.
There's already a NOAA camera or some kind of camera at the lifeguard station.
Yeah, that's true. That's just a webcam to observe the ocean.
I'm not in favor of it.
Okay. I think Dan just wanted to let you know that we can cancel it at any time, so.
Doesn't mean I have to vote for it.
Would you call the roll, please? Or do we make a motion? No,
I need a motion.
I think.
I couldn't hear. Couldn't
we
hear
have
it.
the
I'm
motion?
sorry.
Okay. So would you call the roll?
Do we have a motion?
Oh, we did. Mr. Coggins made the motion, Deputy Mayor Barr seconded, and then Dan kind of chimed in.
Okay,
So-
just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson.
No.
Okay, Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried with 3 in favor. Okay, item number 11 under ordinances. This is a public hearing. Public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 6, 2020, an ordinance reappropriating $105,000 proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purposes in order to provide for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Upper in the County of Cape May, New Jersey.
So before I open it up to the public, just to give the public some summary of some of these items, there's security cameras for some of our facilities. There's, I guess they're going to make a new sports box, I believe at Caldwell Park. There's a few things for Amanda's Field. There's some various other items of things that there's a need for in the township. So this is just an allocation of some of the funding. Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, through the bond, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Mayor, if I may, what we're removing are some things from Amanda's Field and Caldwell Park. We're removing some other recreational upgrades and some funds for an EMS utility vehicle. What we are going to repurpose this bond for is going to be a redesign of our water treatment, our wash water treatment center at Public Works. We're going to put security cameras around at some of our recreation facilities and additional funding, additional monies for a pole barn for OEM.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I'll open it up to the public. If anyone from the public would like to address the Township Committee on this ordinance, now's the time to do so. Please unmute your line and give your name and your address and your reason to address the Township Committee on this particular ordinance. I'm going to remind everyone, just in case, that if you are trying to comment, you must unmute your line and So we'll just wait another minute to see if there's any comment. Okay, hearing that there doesn't appear to be any public comment, I'll close the public comment portion and entertain a motion for adoption.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 006-2020.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 7, 2020, and ordinance authorizing the sale of lands for block 306, lot 6.
If I may, just to remind the committee, the minimum bid has been set at $5,500 in accordance with the appraisal by Louis Velasco.
Okay.
And the public hearing on this would be August 10th. Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion, we introduced ordinance number 7 of 2020 with a public hearing on August 7th.
10th.
Second. 10th. 10th, I'm sorry.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson, Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried with 4 in favor. Item number 13, under new business, bid results for the reconstruction of Commonwealth Avenue Phase 2 and the 2020 Township paving program.
Paul, would you like to give us a little update?
Sure, Mayor. Last week on July 8th, we received bids for our paving project and the reconstruction of Commonwealth Avenue Phase 2. The low bid was from Arawak Paving Company in Hamilton at a cost of $1,833,000. 8 contractors had reviewed the bid specifications. We did receive 3 bids. The high bid was $2,037,000 and change. The project was slightly over my engineer's estimate originally, but I did talk with Barb Ludy, and there are sufficient funds in the 2 bonds and the grant line to cover the additional funds for the project.
So we had bids from 800,000 to 2.2 million?
No, 1.8 million was the
1.8.
low, and then 2,037,000, just over $2 million was the high.
So our had the 1.8 million
bid
bid.
was 1,854,000. So from the low bid to the second bidder, it was about $21,000 between them. So I would recommend that we award the project to the responsible low bidder, Arawak.
Someone like to make a motion to that effect?
Make a motion to approve bid for Arawak.
Just to clarify that, the motion will be to bring a resolution awarding the bid to the next meeting.
Yes.
Noted.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Carried. Item number 14, Cape May County request for a resolution supporting the realignment of the Tuckahoe Road intersection as St. Maximilian Colby Church.
Yeah, Paul, I looked at those plans, and I certainly am not an engineer, but I had difficulty understanding everything that was there. It appears to me that there's going to be some sort of, like, they're getting rid of that island that's there that you would make the left-hand turn into traffic if you're heading towards the Township Hall. and going the other way where there's like a right of way that you just automatically make a right-hand turn, they're going to eliminate that as well?
A little bit, yes. When you're, if you're leaving Town Hall and heading towards Marmora, that right-hand turn as you would head towards the post office and Ralph's Bagels, you kind of have that free turn that, kind of like, almost looks like a little ramp exit that you kind of go around. What they do is they would remove that island on that side and kind of create a deceleration lane in front of the church. And then you'd have to slow down significantly more to make that turn to continue on the Tuckahoe Road to go out towards Route 9 and by Wayside Village and the post office. And then they would also be putting in a marked crosswalk and some sidewalk at the intersection. One thing they didn't do was on the I'll say the exit from there. So if you're coming from Marmora and we're looking to make the left to go back to Petersburg, they have that similar slip ramp that you can kind of make the right, that if you wanted to go back to towards Ocean City, you can kind of still make that free right with the yield, and they still remained, if that's a little bit of a skew angle there at that intersection. So when you're looking at the traffic to make the left to head towards Petersburg and all the traffic that's coming out of Ocean City, it's kind of a tough angle to come at. It'd probably be better if they removed that island also and reoriented it a little bit of the angle so that the traffic could come out at a stop bar where it was more perpendicular to the line of traffic, so you've got a better sight angle to look at oncoming traffic from Ocean City to make that left.
And so that's something that we need to relay that message. I have a little concern that traffic's going to back up. I mean, I understand they're trying to address that corner, but right now it keeps moving. If they make that right-hand turn towards the post office, or it goes around and then you get on Tuckahoe Road heading to Roosevelt Boulevard. So I mean, I understand they're trying to address it, but I'm not quite sure of the value. And also, what are they want to put a crosswalk there, like for people that are residential on the other side of the street? Is that?
Yeah, essentially. So if you're residents from the Burning Tree neighborhood, it'd give you a safe passage location to cross and to get across Tuckahoe Road. I think a lot of what they did this was they've had some complaints in the neighborhood with noise and all the different traffic noise. And I think that they're trying to slow traffic down, so instead of traffic continuing at a high rate of speed as it goes around that corner from Tuckahoe Road, from Petersburg towards Wayside Village, I think they're trying to slow that traffic down. And that's what they're going to do. And I don't feel there's sufficient
coming off Roosevelt Boulevard from Ocean City,
deceleration
coming around and somebody's on a crosswalk
to turn.
That seems kind of dangerous to me. Don't you agree?
Well, I think the incentive is a marked crosswalk at a location at an intersection is going to be much safer than an unmarked crosswalk where you just let people cross at their own volition. So I think that's the point,
but they need to put some sort of warning for the folks that are coming down Roosevelt Boulevard from Ocean City, because they're going to make the bend and all of a sudden they're going to be on top of that crosswalk.
Well, but the crosswalk is already there. Whether it's marked or unmarked, there is a crosswalk there. So if somebody's walking out of Burning Tree Lane, they're already going to be crossing. If they're a pedestrian and they're going to cross and they want to go toward Wayside Village, they're crossing at that location. So I think the county engineer believes that a marked crosswalk with some potential flashing lights and advance notice will be safer than having an unmarked crosswalk and having the pedestrian just go it alone. And that's the recommendation from the county engineer, to make it safer.
I have no problem making something safer. I'm just not so sure that the thinking and the process is actually going to make it safer. I'm not trying to question any engineer or their skills or their expertise. I'm just going by how many over 35 years of going back and forth in that area all the time. In fact, I went to the post office today. I'm just very concerned that people they're especially making the bend from coming from Ocean City down Roosevelt Boulevard on the Tuckahoe Road. It comes up on you really quick. And, to put a crosswalk there, I mean, I'm just not sure that the motorists are going to be prepared for that. Yes, people cross now, but, they understand what's going on, and it really is, I guess because, that they live on those streets, they realize no potential issues trying to cross the street, but putting an official crosswalk there, I have some concerns. I mean, I would agree it probably will make it safer, but it's really a blind side coming from the other way. I don't know, where you guys, you go to the church?
Yeah, I do. I think going the other way, you don't have much of a sight line.
I know, I mean, I literally before COVID-19, I would go to church every week there, and I just, I would have real concerns with a crosswalk from there. Is there any way we can have them come in and talk to us about this?
Sure. We can ask him to make a more formal presentation, and so he can discuss it with you.
These drawings really don't give you a good perspective of is how close that curve is coming off of, Roosevelt Boulevard and coming around to where that intersection is.
Yeah,
that part of it's not drawn on there, and it just seems that that's a big part of the story that we need to look at.
Yeah, I think if he could come in and give us more of an idea as far as what the rationale is and what the design is, the benefits of it.
Okay, I mean, we can ask him, and I'll coordinate with Barb about putting him on an upcoming agenda.
great. I think that'll help, because I sense some, unsure, as to what's being presented, at least at this point.
Can you see what it's like in Mass right now?
Oh, yeah.
The cars are parked all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that we really need to make sure that we're making a good decision here, so. All right,
Okay. We'll get that.
so let's go
set
on
up.
to the next request.
All right, item number 15, request for handicap parking designation in front of 304 South Commonwealth Avenue in Strathmere.
We have to do that by ordinance, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, I have since if we were going to introduce that ordinance, we should also address two other situations we have in Strathmere regarding handicap parking. I believe by Mildred's, we had a handicap parking spot designated for Mildred's Restaurant. Obviously, Mildred's Restaurant isn't there. To remove that handicap spot, don't we have to do that by ordinance?
You have to do it by ordinance. It's the handicaps, it's a section in our ordinance. You have to do it by ordinance.
So if we were going to do one, we should probably do the other one. And I believe there's one on Seacliff that we put in for a resident years ago. Am I right with Seacliff, Paul, or is it the next street over?
You're correct, and that resident has since moved that had made that request.
That was the people that obtained that request have moved. So that is
Well, I think what we probably should do is kind of evaluate, because I mean, certainly we need to provide handicap parking. My concern also with this resident, I'm certainly not opposed to putting a parking handicap spot there, but I think the resident has to be aware that it really is for anybody that has a handicap thing. It's not a specific parking spot for one.
and we addressed that in the past.
Right.
But when we do it,
But that wasn't the request in the letter, so I think we I mean, in
public
fairness to the request, we need to make sure that
I understand that.
is right, exactly.
But what I'm saying, if we're introducing an ordinance for this, we should do an ordinance that encompasses the other two spots, that the one at Mildred's, because obviously that's not going to remain in restaurant. It's been going to be redeveloped. We know that. And I believe there's two handicap spots there. There's also the one on Seacliff that the resident has sold the house. That was a special request. We did it for them. So I think if we're going to do one ordinance,
Just
instead of
bundle it all together.
big, there's the other three ordinances.
But I would also suggest that, if we're removing 3 handicap spots, we identify some other place to put additional handicap parking. So we can incorporate all that in the ordinance.
I'm not, it's a suggestion. The one on Seacliff is on the west side of Commonwealth Avenue. If we're going to have a beach handicap parking spot, that is not where you do it.
Curtis, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that we need to identify areas where it would make sense to have some additional handicap parking
I
spots
am not disagreeing with that.
to make up, to account for the 3 that we're taking away.
We can leave,
So-
we can leave them all there.
But we don't have to leave them there. If that's the appropriate spot, then we can. But I'm just saying that, as we do this, if we're eliminating, if we're adding, we can do it all together, but let's identify the correct place to put the handicap.
But the one on Seacliff, for example, was put in specifically for the residents' request, like this request we have now. The one at Mildred's was put in at the request of Mildred's. I'm not saying to eliminate handicap parking in Strathmere. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying these were put in as special requests.
And
They have met their use. Are they needed anymore? If we determine they're needed, leave them there. If they're
Or
determined-
could they be moved to a place that would be more logical?
that's what I'm
I
saying.
think we're all on the same
Exactly.
page.
Yes.
Preferably putting them on streets that have Moby mats, and you could have handicap parking on the streets.
I mean, the one on Seacliff, you're about as far away as you can get from the beach. in Strathmere. So if we're making it beach handicap parking, it's not the right place.
I don't argue with that.
Mayor?
All I'm saying is that if we're going through this process to address the need here on Commonwealth,
Yes.
and some of the other spots probably have become obsolete for whatever reason, because the folks that originally had requested it are no longer there, then let's identify some other areas to put some handicap parking in Strathmere to go along with this, so that we do one ordinance for everything.
Mayor, if I could just add, I would just note, just for committee's recognition, that we have 2 handicap beach access locations. One's at Williams and one's at Putnam. And there's 1 spot at each of those locations. So if the committee was so inclined, if you wanted to take those 2 spaces and move them to where there's more handicap appropriate, you could put 1 additional one at each of those 2 streets to, essentially double your handicap parking availability at those 2 handicap beach access locations.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I think we should put a list together. We have to do it by ordinance anyway. And so as we're working with Dan to have him draft the ordinance, we can identify some spots, and then that way there'll be an opportunity for public to comment, just as we did earlier on a ordinance, for final adoption or public hearing. So
I mean, we might want to reach out to the people on Seacliff, maybe the people that bought the house for handicap and utilized it and bought a handicap accessible house. I don't know.
Paul is that's why we're going to have Paul go out. I'm not opposed to what we're saying to add an additional spot to each one of those handicap access. That makes sense. But let's look at the other areas and make some identification on those as well. So.
All right, so I have clarity. We're not bringing the ordinance in until it's come back to the Township Committee after investigation as to the appropriate.
I think you can start working on the ordinance, and we'll have some sort of answer for it. It sounds like we've already identified 2 of the parking spots already anyway, so.
Well,
So you guys-
I just want to know whether or not, because to do the ordinance, you have to remove the one at Mildred's and Seacliff, or the 2 at Mildred's and the 1 at Seacliff. And to clarify, are we to find out whether or not there was any neighborhood objections to that because there are handicapped people in that area that you're taking it
I
away?
think we need
Right. That's why we're going to have Paul work on that a little bit for us.
All right, so I would need that information before I give you a final ordinance.
I think if Paul works on it this week, we can probably have the information to you, and a decision can be made before our next meeting, or it can be made at our next meeting, and the ordinance can be introduced at our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
So let's move on to the unfinished business.
Okay, item number 16, emergency access and parking on various streets in Strathmere.
So I know we asked Paul to go over and identify the width of some of the streets, and Curtis, I believe you assisted Paul in doing that one day over there. You want to give us some summary of your findings?
Well, I took a look at it. I think I texted everybody and recommended everybody on the committee look at it. And I believe, has everybody had an opportunity to look at it?
I looked at Randolph and Prescott, as you had requested.
There's not an easy solution. Obviously, I don't know what the answer is. There's not an easy solution.
From my experience and
Can you move up a little bit to the microphone, because some of the people said they had a little hard time hearing you last time.
from my experience and from what I've seen out there through the years, just like we're talking about handicap parking spots, what we need to do is do a comprehensive study of the area and look at the streets that we have and what kind of an impact we're having every summer on parking. In looking at it that way, then we have to try to look at long-term plans on how are we going to start widening the streets. I mean, there's some frontage in some of these, in front of these houses that we may have to start, when we go to paving projects, start widening these streets, curbing them and widening them so that we can accommodate for the parking. Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, two of the streets, I think, when I was out there, I don't think we need to do anything. North Bayview and West Seacliff, I think the road is wide enough that we can handle the movement of large trucks through there with the parking on both sides.
I agree with that. I was out with Paul looking at some of those locations, and I would have no trouble getting a truck down those streets.
well, Paul and I were actually lucky enough to do it on trash day. And we parked, and actually a couple times we had a trash truck on the street. So we just kind of parked like a tourist would, and or a resident or anybody would park and watch the trash truck negotiate through it.
When you look at where one of the residents had requested, it started some of this discussion on East Randolph. That road is 25 feet wide. It is severely narrow, and by our township standards and state standards, there should only be parking on one side. And that road, I would definitely recommend that the township do an ordinance amendment to have no parking on one side. We have spoken to probably, I'll say, almost 3/4 of all the residents on the street, and they were supportive of it because, they can't get in and out of their driveways when everybody's parked on both sides in the, I'll say, the legal spots. They also encroach, because there's so limited parking on that street, they really encroach on their driveway entrances. So it makes it very difficult to impossible to negotiate and pull out of the driveway. So that would be the one street that right now we could do an ordinance for no parking, and that would be supportive. On the other two streets, just because of the nature of there's not a lot of development on some of the streets, or they've had, I'll say, no recent development. The cartway width is narrow in sections and wide in sections. So in the narrower sections where the road has not been widened since, because no property's ever been developed on it, it's just narrow. There is room to widen it based on, and that's on Randolph and Prescott on the west side. Using the unit prices from our paving contract, it would be approximately $65,000 to do it wouldn't be an overlay of the whole street, but it would be enough to pay for the widening and insulation of curb and driveway, not sidewalks. But it would be enough to create the actual proper roadway width for those two streets. But it would require an authorization by committee. And if we did it at this time, you could put it in part of the unit pricing, and we could award it as part of the full contract price.
Does it,
Another option too that I think we ought to consider, the township has a dirt road that we maintain. It's called Landis Avenue. It goes behind the trailer park. Township owns property on the opposite side of that street or that strip of alleyway from the trailer park that we could actually probably put about 50 angled parking spots in. So that would allow us to put additional parking in there, and, possibly we could even look at something like that as, something that we use for permit parking.
John?
If some of the residents wanted to buy permits, we could, give residents of Strathmere on a first come, first served basis, the opportunity to buy permits for those spaces.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I did some additional research on that section of Landis Avenue, where we thought that it was a full roadway width of right of way, actually back in, I think the earlier mid-late 80s, the then township committee had vacated half of that street width, or it just was a narrower width because it was most likely a location that fronted on the old railroad bed. So there's only about 25 feet of width, so it would not have the ability to have a cartway and to have a parking aisle like what we had discussed when we were first looking at it, after I examined the tax map.
About the west side of that street, the west side of that alley?
Correct, yeah, it's just not wide enough. The township doesn't have enough right of way to do what we had discussed out in the field after I was able to look at the tax maps at the end of last week.
Got it.
So we still have a lot of discussion to talk about with respect to the other streets, but you had recommended that East Randolph have parking on one side?
I would do that right away.
yes.
Right.
I think the other one was West Randolph, wasn't it, Paul?
Well, that would require road widening. But both
Yes.
of Randolph and Prescott, if the township did some minor road widening, as I had outlined earlier, and paid the contractor to do the widening and put in curb and driveway aprons for the residents,
Well,
we would be able
West
to
Randolph-
accommodate a proper roadway width down those streets.
West Randolph, where we looked at, that was the backyards to most of the houses that fronted on Putnam.
Correct.
What would be the rationale? I mean, if we were to widen that to the proper width, why do we have to put curb in there?
Just to control the edge of pavement, as you saw out there, because a lot of that lot, because it's undeveloped, it's old Phragmites, and if we don't put curb or something to define where the edge of pavement is, as people would drive and park next to it, they roll off the edge and the edge of pavement becomes cracked and broken, just like what that existing edge of pavement is. I mean, you could do it, but you're just not going to have when you have parking on that edge of road, people, you're going to roll off that edge and it's going to deteriorate and crack and break the road. And, just not a good long-term investment for the township to do that.
Okay, I'm asking the question because I mean, you look at like with that 4 inches of rain we had the other day, and you don't have to go too far to see all this concrete channeling water everywhere. And there was 4 foot of water in the center of Sea. There's no natural drainage taking place. I mean, with a road crown and no curb, sometimes a lot of it could be disseminated on these lots. But I'm just trying to think here a little bit because
Yeah, but most of those lots they're graded up. They're not graded down to accept runoff.
well, one's graded up about 8 foot with stockpile with dirt.
But through this discussion, Paul, we do have streets that we could widen, correct?
Yeah, those 2 streets could definitely be widened to maintain its proper width, to have parking on both sides and have adequate access for public service.
Now, if we go one side parking in Randolph, how many spots do we lose?
Oh, and East Randolph, I think it was 2 or 3.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're losing 3 spaces.
Go to the driveways. So it's not that much of an impact if we do it.
For East
Correct.
Randolph?
Yes.
No, but it's a big impact for the homeowners there who can't get out of the driveway.
I mean,
Yes, it's
It's not an impact.
it's not, no, no, it's not a negative impact.
That's why I'm saying even go.
the one person that actually made the request had a parking spot on each side of her driveway. The problem is her driveway.
Yeah.
If you try to get it was impossible.
You can't turn.
I mean, I don't know how she gets in and out of her driveway.
So
Right, so-
right now, we could go with the one with the one side parking.
Right, so do we have a consensus here that we'll have Dan draft an ordinance to make the one street, the one East Randolph, one-sided parking?
Yes.
It's just, is it one side parallel or diagonal?
Parallel.
It would have to be
You're
parallel.
not going to change it, it's not going to be a two-way street.
It'll be two-way street with parking allowed on the north side. So it'd be no parking on the south side.
Yes.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was no parking on the north side.
Oh, that's right. You're correct, John. I got the sides mixed up.
Let me get that clear, parking on the north side, but not on the south.
No, the other way around.
Yeah.
We would allow parking on the south
South.
side. We would eliminate parking on the north side.
Yes, that's what.
Okay.
All right,
And the committee would just have to give
Someone like to
me
make a
direction if
motion
we want
to
to
do
add
this.
to the paving contract to widen those streets at some point.
Okay. I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor Palumbo, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
There are a number of reports from our municipal departments, animal control, clerk's office, construction code, division of EMS, finance office, municipal court, MUA report, tax collector certification of mailing of the 2020 estimated tax bills. All of these municipal department reports will be available upon request in the township clerk's office, but I'll make a motion to accept these reports.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, so at this time, we've reached the public comment portion of the meeting. For those of you that would like to address the township committee, I would ask that you unmute your phone, unmute your video, state your name, your address, and your reason for addressing the township committee. So I'll try and keep this somewhat coordinated. It's a little difficult if you can't see everybody. So who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay, and you are,
Good evening. My name's Kathleen Dugan, and my husband and I own
I
304
need your address,
Commonwealth
please.
Avenue. 304 Commonwealth Avenue.
Thank you.
She's
Okay.
the,
And I am handicapped due to a brain tumor and the side effects of radiation, and I've had a stroke and drop foot. I wear a brace. We do not have a driveway in front of our home. It is extremely difficult to get a parking spot in front of my home. We have lived there for 17 years. And I respectfully request a designated handicap parking spot in front of my home specific to our address.
We can't do that. So we can
And
put
why
a
not?
handicap space there, but it can't be just for your property. It
I
has
have
to be
seen
for
it
anyone with
elsewhere.
handicaps.
Everyone has a handicap sticker nowadays. And it's extremely frustrating when I come down, and the town is packed with people, and I have to ride around 3 blocks and look for a spot. And I don't understand why you can't have one, say, from May to September in front of our home that we've lived in for 17 years, specific to our address. Where in the law does it say, in the American Disability Act, that you cannot have a specific parking space designated?
I can get you the site and the law on it if you want, but to my knowledge, you can't on a public street have a private individual space. It has to be open. If you can restrict them to handicap accessibility, but people who have the certification for a handicapped car will be able to park there. That's one of the problems with setting up those type of spaces.
Well, there aren't many in Strathmere, and it's very frustrating. If I could put a driveway in, I would. However, I'm limited.
Well,
And
I agree. I can only add that, we certainly have taken your request seriously. We've had the discussion about it. We certainly are willing to put a handicap designation in front of your house, but as Mr. Young stated, that the law does not allow us to say it's your spot. It can open to anybody that has a handicap spot.
Well, I have seen it elsewhere in other towns that the address is on the curb, the blue line, or a sign saying 4304.
Do you have room on your lot for a space if you had a curb cut?
It's the front is stone.
But if you had a curb cut, do you have room on your lot for a parking space?
Yes, we would.
That might be a better solution for you, but you'd have to talk to the township engineer. If you have no off-street parking now, correct?
I'm sorry?
You have no off-street parking now, correct?
No.
And actually, she's in the area of where we're going to be reconstructing that section of Commonwealth Avenue. So we could, I could work with the resident and try to figure out where to put a driveway entrance on Commonwealth Avenue. We could make sure she gets a driveway curb cut.
Well, we are catty corner from Riordan.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, ma'am.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
A
little better. Can you turn that
Okay.
up for us?
We are across from Riordan, catty cornered.
Okay.
Hello?
That's
There you
better.
go.
Oh, so your property is across from Riordan's real estate?
No.
Yes, we're catty cornered. And we're across from the new big White House over there. We're directly across. For 304.
So Paul, is that in the area that you were talking about?
Yeah, she's in North Commonwealth, between Seacliff and Seaview Avenue.
There's
No.
a drawing, shared drawing.
We are between Vincent and Tecumseh.
Oh, okay. I thought you said North Commonwealth. So
No.
No. That's why I want to make sure we clarified that.
Is that being repaid, Paul? That section?
No, that section's, that was the county project. I thought the address, I had the wrong address. I thought it said North Commonwealth. I'm sorry.
We'd have to talk to the county about the curb cut.
Correct.
Paul, can you go over there tomorrow and meet with her?
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she's in West.
Can you, do you know what municipality you saw that sign in, had a, designated parking spot for, a dwelling?
No, I don't. I don't know what township it was in.
I can look into, it's been my knowledge, I didn't look it up before this tonight, but it's my knowledge that it has that in almost all the municipalities I've seen, it is always a public space, not a private space for one individual or property. I'll research it to see if there's an exception
Yeah.
to done, but I can try and find out.
Could you do
Okay,
that,
I
Dan?
appreciate that.
From the looks of the layout of that property, looking at the photograph that I have in the front of it, I think a curb cut might be the best solution. It'll allow them to put a nice wide concrete driveway in there, and they'll be able to, have much smoother access.
Yes.
Yes.
That's better than a handicap spot, to be honest with you.
Well, because like as I mentioned, everyone has handicap stickers, and whether they have a hurt toe or I mean, I am truly handicapped. So and
All right,
the
so
other
we're
thing
gonna-
and then part two is I was told that I have not been on the beach in 2 years because it's like quicksand on Vincent, and the Moby mats or whatever they're called. I believe they told me when I called. I've been calling since 2018, and they said they were going to be on every street in Strathmere. And I know Tecumseh does not have one. And I heard that they were going to try and level out because there were a lot of complaints about Vincent, that it's like quicksand.
Vincent has a Moby mat on it now.
I know, but up at when you come over the dunes, they
Well,
said I heard that they were supposed to try and level that out because there's, it's very difficult to walk through. I cannot walk through it.
Right now, there's a lot of sand. There was a lot of sand on all the Moby mats throughout Strathmere because of the storm that happened on Friday. So I had requested today to send over, we have a kind of a street sweeper with a broom, portable one that goes in, and they take care of that. And I don't know, Scott, or maybe Craig, you can chime in, like, are we going to be doing that soon? And we can look at Vincent, because it does have a lot of sand on the ramp side of the beach.
Mayor, I believe that the superintendent of public works and his crew were over there today, and they cleaned a majority of the Moby mats.
Okay.
As far as
Mike Jones here. I don't know if Craig's on the call or not. We had a crew over there today that did do the Moby mats. There was a lot of sand and stuff on them. They did clear them to the best that we could get them cleared. As far as Vincent goes, we were over there last week with the machine. We had a crew over there that weed whacked and cleaned up on Vincent, sent us pictures of what it looked like. And we got it down to the best that we could with the sand.
Okay, is it still like quicksand? I walked up and looked, but since I use a cane, I didn't want to get stuck, in the middle. And is it walkable?
Well, it admittedly may not be quite what you're looking for with a cane. However, I also want to offer the services of the lifeguards. Well, they'll literally drop off the surf wheelchairs right at Vincent for you. If you have someone that can assist you to take you down to the beach, using the Moby mat and the surf wheelchairs, we can certainly arrange to do that for you.
Yes, but the situation now, would I call them and ask them to come to Vincent?
Sure.
Yes.
We can arrange to do that. They do that on a daily basis.
Would they
And in
come up?
fact, they keep one of the
Would they come?
wheelchairs on back. I'm sorry.
Would
I
they
didn't
come
mean to-
over the? I'm sorry. Would they come over the dune, like to the street?
They could, well, they can bring it to where there's a post right in the middle of the street side of the ramp so that, you know, there is no vehicle access or anything, but they can bring it right up to the post, which is just about street side.
Right, where the trash cans are.
Right. Well, it would be right up to the post, which is a little bit after where the trash cans are. There's a sign right now that says mask up on in the middle of it, but
Okay.
you can
Yes.
certainly
Yes,
get
I've
through.
seen that.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's I'm glad to hear that. So I appreciate that. So all I would have to do is call the lifeguard stand and request they pick me up.
Yeah, yes, I believe the number is 263-1151, if I remember it correctly.
Okay,
But we
thank
can
you.
certainly, you can contact your township hall or whatever. We'll work with you, whatever you need.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor Craig Reeves here.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Craig Reeves.
Oh, Craig.
Mayor, it's Craig.
Okay,
We did visit Vincent this past week, graded it all the way down to the gravel, was graded out all the way to the Moby mats, totally cleaned up, split rail. That is not an ADA compliant ramp, but it was cleared by a prior resident request. All the mats were totally clean today and are back up and clear and good to go.
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the township committee?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. My name is Dan Kilgallen. I live at 12 Highland Avenue. I was wondering, who do we talk to about getting speed limit signs or stop signs in our neighborhood? On Highland Avenue and Point Pleasant and all the cross streets, there's no signage other than street signs, and there's a lot of cars that travel through here.
So are you talking about off of Route 9 there?
Yeah, the only stop signs are on Route 9, but if you go down Highland or down Point Pleasant or through any of the cross streets, there's no stop signs, there's no speed limits, or even like a slow sign or children at play sign would be helpful.
So, Craig, do we have any of those slow? But I mean, because they wouldn't routinely put a stop sign in the middle of the block if there's not a cross street. So maybe slow, caution, children at play or something like that. But we do have some of those orange, yellow signs, right, Craig?
Yes, sir. They can be set in place.
So Highland is, and what'd you say, Point Pleasant? So they're at Beasley's Point.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can certainly get them out there. And Paul, actually, can you go out there and take a look and let's see if we can get this speed limits posted? You and Craig work together?
Yeah, I mean, typically on the residential streets, because of their residential neighborhoods, we don't normally post speed limits because it's a regulatory 25 mile an hour. We have put them up in cases where a resident requested it, but they're not required by the standards to have them.
I mean, they are on, as a point of reference, they're on every other cross street in Beasley's Point, it seems. And there's been, an increased number of small children moving into the neighborhood and riding bikes.
And the sad part is with the nature, where it's at, it's probably all the local residents. I mean, maybe we could ask the troopers to go down there and put a presence in.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I gotta believe it's not a through street, and I gotta believe it's your neighbors. I mean, not that.
We can put up some signs, and if we have speed limit signs, it doesn't hurt to put up one speed limit sign on either of the streets or whatever.
Oh, it should be.
I'm not sure that there's a sign posted on my street. I live on Hollywood, so I'm pretty close to where you are.
I think it's on the street there is.
But in any event, if I could ask, Craig or, Public Works to put a few signs up on those two streets just to make some sign awareness for people that are traveling and, make it more cognizant that, we'd like people to try and slow down if they're going through the neighborhoods. So.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
That work for you, Daniel?
Yep, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my name is Randy Roche. I live at 124 Prescott Street in Strathmere, New Jersey.
Hello, Randy.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions, and I'll try and be brief, but this time I'm a little confused. I'd like to direct my questions to Mr. Dietrich, the Township Committee. As far as Prescott Street specifically, I'm interested to know, are we talking about parking concerns or emergency vehicle access concerns? I'm referring to the June 26th letter sent by the Strathmere Fire Company to the Upper Township Committee that addressed emergency vehicle access concerns in Strathmere. And one of the streets addressed was West Prescott, where I reside with my family. Now, I've listened to the conversation tonight. In other streets, it seems like it's appropriate to do one side of the street parking. I'd like to know why that isn't a consideration for Prescott Street, particularly West Prescott, where I live. And I'd like to know what the consistent pattern of the engineering is for our streets and where we park and where the signs are. I took measurements on my own, very amateur measurements. But when you go to the parallel road to the beach at Neptune and Winthrop, the township, I believe it's the township, has installed no parking on either side of the street. That road is 1.6 inches more narrow than West Prescott. Why are you not considering, Mr. Dietrich and the Township Committee, one side of the street parking on West Prescott rather than ripping up the road? And sidewalks and curbs that we were instructed to install to get our CO post Sandy. Mr. Dietrich, you specifically instructed me to have them installed at the paved roadway. Subsequently, we have landscaped behind that. Now it seems to me the conversation has turned that the landscaping may have to be ripped up. And Mr. Dietrich has told me the township will pay to put in new curbs and sidewalk. Now, another question is that in the township's best interest? How is our budget? Do you want to pay for that? Or do you want to put in one side of the street parking, which I believe from talking, this is anecdotally, all of my neighbors and I are in favor of. I don't understand why that would be the push forward to widen the street. We in a surplus budget? Don't think so from what I read. Anecdotal question. Would you like to respond, Mr. Dietrich or Mr. Mayor or someone else on the committee? Because I have another question after that.
Well, I don't think they were talking about widening the street. I think they were talking about taking the street to the limits of to the right of way and making sure that there was nothing approaching over.
Sir, that's widening the street.
Well, you didn't allow me to.
As it exists now.
Randy, you asked the question. Let Mr. Coggins answer the question.
I'd like to finish my thoughts, sir.
Go ahead.
There are sections throughout Strathmere where properties or there are property owners who have encroached onto the Upper Township's public right-of-way. And in those cases, if that needs to be adjusted for safety reasons or for parking reasons, whatever may be necessary, we have to look at doing that.
It's
Now,
a
as
very
long as you-
unfair, that is a very unfair word. When I was instructed by your township engineer to place my curb and sidewalk post Sandy at the paved road, I didn't encroach on anything. I paid a concrete company to put in the required curb and sidewalk. Then I appeared in front of your zoning board to get my 20-foot driveway approved. And that's in the minutes of June 13th. The year is escaping me right now. It was approved in front of your zoning board with my attorney, Art Ford. And now you're doubling back, trying to change what I was instructed to do. Would you like to comment on that, Mr. Dietrich?
Nobody's saying that they're taking away what you put in. There was
The
no
approach
authorization
from
from
what
the
I heard,
township
Mr.
committee.
Dietrich, what I heard from you tonight was you recommended the widening of West Prescott.
Did you hear us taking action on that?
Excuse me?
And we took no action on that. You heard what you wanted to hear.
Curtis?
I heard what was recommended.
Well,
Did we take an action on it?
But, so there are recommendations that are made often. And, you know, we really need to look and evaluate some of the situations that exist. But there's no decision that has been made at this point on anything other than East Randolph, that a small area that affects probably 2 or 3 parking spots. But, you know, I think we really need to be very cautious and step lightly and looking at streets where it would make sense or not sense to do one-sided parking and everything else. I mean, you know, there's obviously a lot of parking situations that are occurring, at least this summer, it appears. And, you know, before anything is done other than that one particular street, you know, we're really going to have to look at, you know, what's available and what are best options. So, you know, at this point, you know, nothing's going to occur other than the one street. And that won't occur this summer because by the time we do the ordinance, we'll most likely be into September at that point anyway. So.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that. I respect what you just had to say. And I know that the curbs and sidewalks that we were instructed to install are on township property. What I don't understand is why West Prescott isn't being considered for one side of the street parking when you have Neptune that's 1 foot more narrow and you've got no side parking. Why? What's the discrepancy there? I don't understand that.
I mean,
Why is Neptune different than West Prescott?
Neptune is different in that the township doesn't have the right of way because the right of way extends into the dune area that we can't widen it sufficiently to make that appropriate width. Also, Neptune is from a circulation standpoint, something that it has always been that way, that the fire company has had that no parking since, I don't know when it was allowed to have parking there. So it's just been from a circulation standpoint, whether it's fire trucks or trash collection, that Neptune north of, I think it was at Winthrop, you know, or really the half a block between Williams and Winthrop, you know, has no parking on either side. And a lot of it is for general, not just for emergency circulation, but for general circulation of traffic, not just for emergency vehicles, but general circulation.
Okay,
It's a totally different street.
I understand that to a degree, but I do know, and I live here and I follow the news and the local things with the government. I understand that the township received a grant to potentially curb and sidewalk that area, and you acquiesced from all, I think that was your words to me, the committee acquiesced to committee neighborhood pushback. And I want to be treated fairly in my neighborhood as well as any neighborhood in this town. And we followed the rules here to get our homes up and running after Sandy.
And nobody's looking to take away what you did after post Sandy.
I'm not very convinced of that at this moment. I want to work with you, with the township, and make it work the best I can. And I believe from talking, I'm going to close with neighbors and I, as we've talked, we're okay with one side of the street parking. And that seems to me the most cost efficient thing for the township to do at this time. If we're talking
Randy,
about
we're not-
parking
Randy,
or emergency vehicle access, I don't understand.
Randy,
I think parking seems to be the real thing that the committee is concerned with.
Randy, at this point, we're not making any other decisions on one-sided parking or anything. And I would suggest at some point we will have some sort of general meeting in Strathmere, but we're not going to do it until we get through this COVID thing. So it's very difficult to do a Zoom call, you know, trying to visualize who's trying to ask questions and everything else. So I can assure you that nothing will be done probably on any of these streets this summer. And we'll have further discussion on this as we move forward. But you said you had one other question, so let's move to that one.
Now, that's fine, Mr. Mayor. Before anything's done, please don't randomly come out here with a wheel and measure things up and move away. Talk to my neighborhood. We'll all meet with social distancing and talk to the people what they want and what they think is best.
Well, Randy, I'm going to continue to do my job. And if my job means getting in a vehicle and coming out with Paul Dietrich, our township engineer, and looking at something and doing the responsible thing, I'm going to do it. You're not going to tell me I can't look at a request when it comes in here. I'm going to do my job that I was elected to do.
And you should do your job. And let me.
I'm doing my job, and I did do my job.
All right, we're not going to get into.
Curtis, I logged into the last township committee meeting, and part of the conversation on this was we're going to go out and talk to the residents. You didn't do that. We saw you picking up. It was Monday morning. We were picking back our trash containers, and you and Paul were out measuring. And my neighbor Fran McCluskey and I came out and talked to you. And the trash truck came down the street, and you saw how it got down the street.
I did.
You didn't ask us anything. You just showed up and concerned everybody. Now,
no, I did just show up.
What you said in the township committee meeting.
Right. You know what? We're not going to solve anything this evening.
Exactly. I'm sorry I went out and did my job, Randy.
Curtis, please, we're not going to have a private back and forth. This is
public. It's not private.
And it's difficult enough. So let's not go back and forth. Randy, I assure you nothing will be done until we have an opportunity to talk to different people other than potentially East Randolph. But again, we're talking in September, those kind of things. So, you know, it's too difficult to have just two people going back and forth. And it's difficult enough trying to have this meeting on the Zoom, let alone that. So let's just leave it that I'll arrange to have something in Strathmere when the time is right and everyone's safe to have a meeting. I'm not going to have it during COVID-19 because, you know, the last thing I want is for somebody to have a meeting and then we come out of there and then somebody has unfortunate, you know, case where they've contracted it for whatever reason. But nothing will be done until September or even after that. So, you know, you have my word on that. So,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my neighbors and I would be happy to meet with you in a proper way at any time.
Okay, thank you. And we will do that, Randy. I'll make myself available, but we're not, you know, I'm trying to be like very cautious with everything that's going on. So, you know, let's leave it at that for the time being.
No, thank you.
What, do you have another question?
No, good enough. Thank you. Thank you for your time and looking out for my neighborhood and everybody's best interest.
So,
also serve on the fire commission, and I'm aware of these things as they come about, and I understand the most important thing is emergency vehicle access.
And I would hope that you would understand that we do address the safety of our residents very seriously. So everything will be put into the consideration.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the Township Committee?
Yes, I would, Mayor Palumbo, this is Linda Bateman, 14 East Tecumseh. I know that the state police have been coming through Strathmere. I've seen them on Bayview. We, I believe, had an accident up near the Deauville. We all understand that this is an unusual time and everyone is desperate to stay close to home and to be outside. And I think on the beaches, people are trying to keep their distance. I don't think that any of us who live and drive in town feel comfortable on the weekends. We cannot make a left turn out of Tecumseh onto Commonwealth. We have to make a right and go around the block because it's just so crazy. We continually have to go outside and ask people not to block our driveway. They pull into Elizabeth Burgess's driveway. Today, someone pulled in all the way up to her garage and look in her windows. They line up to use the porta potty at the construction site. And our safety and the parking violations are really not being accounted for in our desire to use the beach. I completely understand the need to use the beach, but there's got to be a level where enough is enough and we can't fit any other vehicles. It's just, and the answer is not to pull up and park bumper to bumper so that when people come back from the beach, they can't even get to the trunk of their car to put their chairs in, or you cannot get in and out of your driveway without trying to hit something, without hitting someone. It's really treacherous. I'm not talking about permanent. I'm talking about, could we step things up a little bit? I know they're busy out on Commonwealth and Landis with the one-sided parking, but it's just, I've never seen a summer like this for lots of different reasons, obviously.
Well, parking is a huge problem in Strathmere. And one of the problems is Ocean City, for example, is not selling the day pass. So if you go to Ocean City for the day, you can't go to the beach for the day. So that's pushing people to other alternatives because Ocean City took the cashier out at the end of each beach. So that is one of the things that's compounding our problem. Another thing is you have, like the Asbury Park Press the other day did an article talking about social distance and the best places to go. Obviously, one of the best beaches to go to, according to the Asbury Park Press, out of the top 10 in the state of New Jersey, Strathmere made it. And it touted we have free parking, we have free beach, and no law enforcement. So Asbury Park Press, you can credit them in giving us a perfect storm, because that's what we have.
I realize Strathmere is very busy. I'm over there a lot. But I can't help but think that I passed through Ocean City to get there, and there's a lot of people there as well. There's a lot of people in Seattle. There's a lot of people at every beach because people unfortunately have been cramped up for many months, and any opportunity to get the outside and get some fresh air they're going to try and take advantage of it. We will talk to the state police about continuing their support in addressing some of the concerns. I apologize that, these traffic issues and parking issues are occurring. But I assure you, part of it is the fact that a lot of people just need to get out. And I'm not just talking about people from, out of our area. There are a number of people that I see on the beaches from Upper Township that are there that might not normally go there. Just to get some fresh air. I've seen people that I had on the beach this summer from Upper Township that I would not normally see, maybe more than once a week, once a summer, whatever. So, it's not making an excuse for the parking thing. It's just trying to give some reality as to why some of this is occurring.
Well, people's ability or need or want to get outside does not justify their bad behavior.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that there's an abundance of people at every beach area, not just Strathmere, and it's unfortunately that we're seeing it as well in our community. So.
Well, and thank you very much, both you and Mr. Corson, for your support, Mayor Palumbo. When I go to ShopRite, they count that I'm there. When I leave, they count that I left. If I go anywhere and there's not a parking space, I don't think, okay, well, I'll just block this person while I run in and do my whatever. We need some sort of
rational approach to this, a safe approach to this, as you said. And I would welcome any thoughts that you have. And the other thing is that as our streets are so crowded, it forces people with the larger cars and the SUVs and all of their stuff. I saw a truck on Saturday backed into my neighbor's driveway and was blocking the street and the driveway, proceeded to unload everything, forced the people that were trying to walk down the sidewalk onto the grass, and they had to walk around not only the truck, but all the stuff they put in the middle of the sidewalk. And then it's a traffic jam on Little Tecumseh. It just feels like and they weren't even near the beach. Then they had to carry all that stuff down to the end of the beach. It's just
I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to be critical of anything, but I will tell you that I've also seen on a Saturday 2 trash cans in front of an area that could be used for a parking spot. You know, and yesterday there was a home that had 2 cans full of vegetation, like, weeds and those kind of things that certainly could have been put out Sunday evening. So, I mean, look, I'm not trying to make excuses for anything. We have an issue with traffic. We have an issue with parking, and it's something that we're going to have to really reevaluate and look at as we get into the fall and into the winter, and we certainly will have some sort of open meeting. I'm just not sure that we can address it at this point. And the comparison with ShopRite, they're forced to have a capacity limit. They have to be there to count people. And if not, they will be cited. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are at play right now that would normally not take place. And, it's just compounding every issue that as we work getting through the executive orders and everything else. It's just been very difficult. So.
I have a question for Mr. Reeves, if I could. It has nothing to do with parking. Have you noticed any change since the red stickers went on the recycling can? Have things improved, would you say?
Linda, yes, hi. I am here. And yes, it has made a difference. Bill McDaniels has noticed a large difference with people or actually following the rules. It's working out very well. So yes, to answer your question, it is making a difference, yes.
And not a criticism, but we all put our things out on Tuesdays to be picked up, all our brush and all those cans. And when it didn't happen this week, a lot of people just left them out because they didn't know what to do or were afraid of doing it. Not making excuses, but I noticed on our street that we kind of looked at each other and said, I guess they're not coming. Obviously there was a storm. We don't know what to do a lot of times. Thank you all. It's getting late.
Linda, thank you. I appreciate you, and you are correct. We did have a little bit of a storm. A lot of my trucks had to be kept offshore. We did come back through and clean up things this week that were missed. The second thing I would like to comment on while you're here is, as far as the parking goes, we can paint like the entire town yellow, but if people don't abide by what they do, it doesn't matter how much we paint. It happened again. My in-laws have a house in Sea Isle. My wife and I, for the first time this summer, visited the house. We couldn't even get in our own driveway because they were parked halfway across our driveway.
Then
so
you feel
it's difficult. I understand your frustration, but we can paint whatever we paint. But if people neglect that, then our hands are kind of tied.
Right. I didn't ask for paint, just to be clear, but I do ask that I can safely get in and out of my residence. And I think that's a basic consideration for everyone. It's sad to think that on weekends, our motto is park the car, keep it in the garage, we're not going anywhere. And we feel like we don't even use our bikes if we can help it.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that, we can paint as many things as we can yellow, but without some kind of enforcement, then we can't do it.
I'm going to have to log off. You're playing my song. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else like to address the Township Committee?
Yes, this is Janice Connell, 1808 Commonwealth Avenue. In just listening to all of these issues around the parking and the traffic, unsafe conditions, we're not addressing the handicap in an overall fashion. Do we want to really take over the easements that the township has the authority to do to alleviate some of these issues? The emergency access for the emergency vehicles, I mean, that is really critical for the township. It would seem to me that rather than doing any kind of, well, we're going to deal with the handicap this way, we're going to deal with the parking this way, why wouldn't we consider some of this excess money to have a professional planner do a true study on parking and access, emergency vehicle ability to access in the event of an emergency, those sorts of things. I mean, I remember when we talked about, do we want speed limits on Commonwealth? Well, we need a traffic study. But to me, just in listening to everyone's concerns, and I appreciate deeply the fact that, everyone cares about the safety of the residents and the safety of everyone that visits here. But I think that having a professional to really do a systematic approach to the problem with a systematic resolution would be beneficial rather than, well, we think this or maybe this would work, or, we have an easement of 10 feet or whatever it is to widen streets. I mean, you're talking about other impacts, habitat, wildlife, as we talked about on Neptune. So my thought, if you would consider it, would be to take a systematic approach and have a professional really take a look at this situation that we have here. And I know these are difficult times, but I think it is of significant import to have a professional really help us address these problems in a reasonable fashion.
Well, I appreciate your giving your suggestion. I can tell you that at this point, there isn't any excess money. The COVID-19 has really forced us to be cutting some corners with our budget as it is, between signage and requirements and cleansing and a lot of the things that are going along to try and keep people safe. Our budget has taken a toll on it. So something like that wouldn't be able to be even considered until next year's budget.
Well,
but
I don't think let's get a price on it. Let's have Paul do some research and have a number for us so that we know what we're talking about.
Well, that's fine, except for
I agree exactly with what she's saying.
I
believe I discussed this with you guys earlier about, we need to do a study. What we're doing right now is we're just trying to alleviate an immediate issue. But yes, ma'am, you're correct. We have to look at the overall
huge picture.
Design of Strathmere and come up with a solution on what we're going to do about the park. And it's not, we don't take one street at a time and try to alleviate the problem. It's got to be a holistic.
I mean, the county took, they took one street at a time and actually pushed it off on our streets. So that's impacted our situation.
Which we talked about when they came out. Yes. And a lot of parking spots.
I mean, the problem is I think we do need to get a price on the study. And it's not going to hurt us to get a price now. It might be cheaper.
I'm not opposed to getting a price. I'm just not sure that we have it in our budget to do it.
It might be cheaper than we think. I don't know.
Maybe more money than you think, and you don't know.
But I mean, I think we need to look at the whole thing overall. I mean, as long as we continue to give stuff away in Strathmere, we're going to have a parking problem.
And it boils down to maybe we should consider beach tags. So there are things
beach tags, parking, everything.
There are things that we need to talk to residents about. And I'm saying that right now is not the proper time to do it because of everything that's going on. But I certainly would be willing to do it. if we get through the next month or two and things are safer when we have a group of people together.
So you're not going to get a group of people together to agree on anything. That's the problem.
I did
Sometimes-
also say, I think I heard, I don't know if it was Mr. Barr, about perhaps turning into some of the township property into parking spaces that the residents could rent during the summer. I know that other shore towns have done that. That may be a viable option as well. I agree. I'm sorry. You're right, Mayor. These times are very hard, and I know that you're directing money to, address the COVID issues. And I sort of spoke maybe perhaps out of turn about the resolution for redirecting monies. But I really do feel that having a systematic approach and an understanding of all of the issues with a overall resolution would be helpful. And I understand the timing is difficult, but I think that Mr. Corson's idea of, it doesn't hurt to just explore the cost and decide what the priorities are for township monies.
I agree.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I do have, I just have a question for clarification or understanding. What is the Upper Township Floodplain Management Public Information Group? What is that supposed to be charged with doing? And who would you appoint to be members? Is it the public or officials, or can you just help me understand what that initiative is about?
Well,
Sure. The floodplain group will be mostly township officials. We're reaching out to Strathmere Environmental Fishing Club to help be on that club membership, as well as our township's risk management consultant.
so do you have the list in front of you?
Yes.
So could you please tell Ms. Connell who's on the list?
Yeah, it'd be myself, 2 members of Township Committee, Scott Morgan, Craig Reeves.
Right now, what I saw, I was the one that was appointed. Is there room for another committee person? But that wasn't on the list today, right? I'd like to have just a list of what was on the resolution that was passed. I can't access, I have to get off my screen to go and get all the names.
No.
You have it, Dan?
It was Mayor
I'm
Colombo.
looking now.
I have it. You want to read it, Paul? Yes, I do. Okay, it's going to be Mayor Palumbo, Thomas Tice Insurance, Paul Dietrich, Scott Morgan, he's the OEM coordinator, Craig Reeves, Public Works Superintendent, Rory Cooper, Township Construction Official, a representative from the Strathmere Fishing and Environmental Club. And that's it.
Okay, so far, they're the members. Well, we haven't had the Strathmere Environmental Fishing and Environmental Club, give us their suggestions at this point, I don't believe, but basically is open for them to appoint someone to join us. It's something that we thought it was important to look at, and probably open to a little bit of expansion, but we certainly thought that we would take each department, OEM, Public Works, that affect this kind of thing. And Paul, can you just summarize what the task is of this committee?
They work in helping develop the hazard mitigation activities that we put forth to FEMA for potential mitigating projects for FEMA funding. Those of them include road widening, raising of roads, tide gates, and different public infrastructure or planning projects that would help alleviate future flooding.
Does that answer your question?
I apologize if I'm not sure that I've heard about this committee before. Is this a new initiative or
No,
why?
it's been around for years, hasn't it, Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure about, what the vision and the purpose was and who the members were.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the Township Committee? I'm wondering if anyone is trying to address the committee is on mute. Okay, well, it seems as if we've reached the end of the public comment portion. And I thank you all for your comments and your input. It's very important for us to hear it and to work, with our residents. So thank you for that. With that, since it doesn't appear that there's any other public comment, I'll turn to Committeeman Coggins and entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters are contract negotiation with KD Security and with Cape Professional Billing, litigation with Rotimi OO versus Upper Township, potential litigation with EMS Collections and tax lien foreclosure, and also personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Barr,
Yes.
Mr. Coggins,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you all for joining this evening. I apologize for some of the technological issues we had in the beginning. I hope you're all able to hear us, and we'll continue to make this as efficient as possible. And please stay safe and, wear your mask if you're associating with someone you haven't been with recently.
We
Thank
will,
you and have a good evening.
but just to let the public know, we will be back in open session to close out the meeting after the closed session.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
It may be me. Can't hear any. Can't hear you guys.
All right, I'm on.
Here you go.
I can hear you now.
Wait, my speak. Hold on.
Turn your mic. This is the little things.
It's not the mic, it's the speaker. How's that?
You still have your mic on.
Push F1 and F4 on your,
There you go. Rich.
There you go, Rich, you're there.
Your mic is off now.
I have F1 punched.
how about F4?
You're on time.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Need a motion to come out of closed session?
I'd like to make a motion to come out of closed session and open session.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Carried.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Is there anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Good night,
Amen.
everyone.
Good night.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night, folks.
All right.
Good night and have a pleasant
Good
tomorrow.
night, Alice.